Hello,
I feel
Kat
like my head
Koppett
is.
from Stony Brook, New York at the IEN conference. Hello, Kat. Nice to see you.
Hello. Thank you for doing this.
Yes, well, it's fun to be involved in the conference, but in a very different role this way, and to meet everybody, at least online, and get a little bit of the vibes at the conference, which so far I heard is great.
I can't wait to experience it all over again by listening to your interviews.
Yeah, let's begin with your interview. You told me you were doing a session on story circles. So, what is
Yes.
that?
Well, it's really very simple. You get a group of people together in a circle and we share stories. So, specifically in this case, we we started with a little bit of improv story warm-up games.
Mm-hmm.
I had folks in partners give each other 3 words and then create a 1-minute story incorporating those 3 words just as a warm-up. And then the story circle itself is you take a theme or a concept or an idea or a problem and have folks share stories in the circle inspired by that theme or concept.
Real
In
stories.
real life, often real true stories from their lives. In real life, when I do this in organizations or with, existing groups of people, sometimes we'll decide on a theme ahead of time. So a theme might be failure or inclusion or one of the company values, right? Excellence, whatever the theme is. In this case, what I had the group do was surface a theme that was meaningful to the group of people in the room, and we did that by going around the circle. We did that by going around the circle and filling in the phrase, I'm wondering about.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone in the circle filled in that phrase, and we surfaced a theme that, sort of what we were hearing collectively from the group, and we came up with the theme of uncertainty and the future was our theme.
Okay.
And again, usually in real life, if I would do this, I would make sure that I had enough time and the circle was small enough that everyone who wanted to share a story had an opportunity to share a story. Although there is no obligation to tell a story, and you can certainly participate simply by being a witness, and you can certainly get value just by hearing stories. In this case, we had only an hour. We had maybe 40 people in our circle. So that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
We spent about 20 minutes telling stories. But we shared the story. We debriefed a little bit for ourselves and then individually thinking back on our question that we were wondering about. And then we debriefed, how are you thinking differently about your question or what you were wondering about, having heard other people's stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked a little bit about the process and how we would apply it.
Okay. And what, in your opinion, is the power of these stories?
Well, I think the thing I like best about sharing stories in that way is what it's instead of. So instead of giving advice or sharing an opinion about what someone should do or what the right way of doing something is, we're sharing experience. And so we don't get into argument and we don't get into debate and we don't get into binary conversations about what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah, so it's really about someone posing a problem, or in this case, a shared theme that will come up from the group. And then everybody just listening in and getting inspired by stories of other people can make up their own mind of what direction they wish to take this further with. Is that correct?
Exactly right. And yes, that's right. And so then what happens is we're having a conversation, but also an inner experience and exploration that is multidimensional and has space for many, many different thoughts and feelings and opinions and ideas.
Yes.
That isn't driving towards one solution or one opinion or one idea.
Mm-hmm. And in this case, you had a very large group of 40 people. How much would be like an ideal size group for this?
Yeah, I mean, well, as I say, it's you can, it's just as rich to sit and listen, and you can get just as much from it as you can from telling your own story.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's important is that you have enough time, that everybody who wants to share has the opportunity to share.
Yes.
So there's nothing inherently wrong in having 40 people sit in your circle,
Mm-hmm.
as long as you would have enough time for potentially to hear 40 stories if you have 40 people in the circle.
Yes.
I think what's important is that you have enough space to hold and to hear 40, So usually when I'm doing it, it's with a group of, 6 to 20,
Yes.
An intact team is usually what I'm doing with, or a workshop.
Mm-hmm. And your role as a facilitator, do you sometimes participate as well? Like be part of the whole experience and share your own stories when you hear something that inspires you to tell a story? Or do you really keep yourself in the the facilitator role?
Yeah. I usually don't tell my own story because although I don't know that I would forbid it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any reason that I couldn't. I don't know that I would advocate in a draconian way not to.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I think it depends on the context, right? I mean, I think if I'm a consultant or facilitator going into an organization, facilitating for an intact team, then I don't, because it's about their experience and their culture.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Although I might anyway, right?
Yeah, still a story that comes from...
It's an interesting question. I'm torn. Sometimes it's about holding the space for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just open my brain and tell you what I'm thinking as you answer the question. The part of me that would hesitate is the part that would be concerned that because I have a role as a facilitator, I have more power than other people in the group, and that my story would be unequal.
Okay.
So that's what I would be worried about.
Yeah.
That my story would have more power or undue influence. And that if I
Interesting, because
an experience,
it doesn't have to be, of
I don't
course.
know.
You can say, okay, now we're starting this.
No.
I'm just one of you, and yeah.
I don't know if that's true at all.
Mm-hmm.
But
you
that's
never
what
tried.
I would be concerned about. I'm trying to think back to all of the story circles I've done. And I think sometimes I may have shared a story, and sometimes there's value in modeling that. Or sometimes I think if all the stories are the same, it's nice to add a story in that has a different point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Or if everybody's telling the story that's about, here's how I was very successful in navigating this, or there's just one pat, easy answer to, we're talking about, creativity or, leadership. And everybody tells very simple, easy stories about being a perfect leader.
Mm-hmm.
I might share a story about failing as a leader or making a big mistake as a leader to sort of shift the group or model being vulnerable. So I think there are definitely times when I might choose to tell a story as a facilitator, especially with the intention of opening the group in a different way or adding a different flavor.
Yes.
Especially to encourage something if I feel like the group needs a push that way.
What is a story circle that you did that you feel, wow, what happened here was just amazing?
I almost always feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yesterday, the story circles that we did, I mean, this is an amazing open group. But I think I would say two things about that. One is I did this exercise at the very, very first AIN conference before it was ever AIN, when we were just a track of the saga. And the topic was the power of story. And I was secretly pregnant. Nobody knew I was pregnant except me. And I was kind of feeling a little queasy, a little sick. And there was someone who told a story. He was a state senator from, I want to say, Minnesota. And he told a story about his mother. I won't tell you the whole story now because it will take a long time. But he told a story about his mother and how she sort of encouraged his creative risk-taking and his imagination. And I remember listening to his story and thinking, oh, that's exactly the kind of mother I want to be.
Yeah, so you just had to.
And it was this wonderful gift to me as this new expectant mother that did this dual thing for me. I thought, oh, that's exactly the kind of mother I want to be. And I also was like, oh my goodness, look at the power of story. While I was running this activity, theoretically I knew about the power of story, but I had this really emotional, visceral experience of the power of what the tool that I was teaching was for myself.
Wonderful.
So that was great. Yesterday, something happened, which was people were very, the depth of disclosure in the room. People were talking about real loss, the death of their children and failures that they felt as parents and the, illness of parents and loss and fear and loss of jobs and hope and, overcoming, real life tragedy and triumph, at the deepest and highest levels. And at the end of it, there was a lot of question around, well, this is great here, but how could you possibly do this out in the world? And Gary Hirsch affirmed he's been using this tool all the time with organizations for years and had the same experience I have, which is people are very willing to do this. And
but they need a safe space and an inviting person to lead it. Yeah.
Yes, he's wonderful. And it reminded me of something that I think is universal, not just to story circles, but to our work in general, which is there's this interesting paradox in our work, which is that on the one hand, we have to be very careful that we don't take for granted how different what we do is, right? So we talk a lot about, we have to recognize that not everyone is an improviser, not everybody is comfortable what we do, and we have to be gentle when we go into a new space, that we're not talking jargon, or that we're making it safe for people, or that we start simply.
Yes.
And we talk a lot about that.
You have 30 seconds left.
Awesome. The other thing is also true. This is a great place to end. It is also true that sometimes I think we overestimate ourselves and how different we are. And we say, we can do this. We can do a story circle, but other people can't do this, or they will never do that.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you there, Kat. In the end, we're all earthlings and human beings, and we connect through stories. Yes. Thank you so much for your time, and enjoy your last day in Stony Brook.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Okay. See you later. Bye.
See you later. Bye.